The era we are living in today is a dream come true. Walt Disney. Hello everyone, thanks for listening to Dis-connected, an unofficial Disney podcast of magical proportions. I'm Whit Laxton, your Disney enthusiast host, and coming up...
So amazing. I mean, the opening to that movie, the Circle of Life song, goosebumps every time. It's so good.
Our journey through the history of Disney animation continues with a special Dis-cussion on the era known as the Renaissance. I have so many memories. This was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. This is Disney animation history, the Renaissance. Hey guys, what's up? It's Whit, back for another episode of Dis-connected, along with my friend and fellow Disney enthusiast, Katie Carter, who is joining me via Skype. Hey, Katie.
Hello.
Hey, so we are continuing our 6-part series of podcasts on the history of Disney animation today. We have discussed the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and today we get to my favorite. It's the best era of Disney animation.
It really is. I feel like these are the movies that we really grew up watching and experiencing and
yeah. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But this is the Disney Renaissance today. So in our last episode, we talked a little bit about the documentary Waking Sleeping Beauty. And if you have not seen that documentary, you've got to go watch it because it's a fantastic look inside this time at the Walt Disney Animation Studios. You'd had sort of this slump in the 70s and 80s for Walt Disney Animation after Walt's death, but now they come back in a big way. 1989 is the first movie in this set, Katie, and that is The Little Mermaid, released November 17th, 1989. Oh my word. They made a splash with that movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, their biggest movie ever at that point. And really, when you compare it to everything that they had been producing right up until then throughout the 80s, it's just such a huge, huge difference.
It had been a long time since Disney had done a fairy tale or a princess or anything. And that's actually why the documentary about this time is called Waking Sleeping Beauty, because it's like something that had been missing, and it really it took them back to the princess movie with Little Mermaid. It's really, really the return of the Disney animated princess. And so it had been 30 years since they had done that.
Yeah, and this is also really the first of their movies that was like a musical. Up to this point, I mean, a lot of them, there were, some of the movies were more musical than others. Some were just movies with songs. But starting with this one, I feel like they really started going for these big Broadway-inspired numbers. I mean, Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl, Part of Your World, just all such amazing songs and classic songs.
Yeah.
Now.
Thank you, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, two big influences on this era. Of course, they were brought in to the studio to really help. They had had success with Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway. And so that team, Howard was the lyricist and Alan Menken was the composer of the music. And so they brought the musical back. And in the documentary of Waking Sleeping Beauty, you see where he talks about how Part of Your World was kind of the I Want song for the female protagonist with Ariel. And it is my favorite Disney song. Ariel is my favorite Disney princess. I don't even want to go into Jodie Benson today, but we have praised her on Dis-connected before, but love Jodie Benson, fantastic voice talent there. A full cast of great voice performances. So you had Samuel E. Wright as Sebastian, and just fantastic.
Yeah, so many great and well-developed supporting characters in the movie. I feel like Eric's kind of the first time you really get to know the prince as much as the princess character, and get some of his backstory and all of that. So yeah, great characters, great villain in Ursula.
Yes. Ursula is my favorite Disney
Really?
villain. Pat Carroll,
Yeah.
fantastic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ursula. I mean, yeah, I love Ursula. She really is my favorite Disney villain. So
Yeah. And in terms of the production and the animation, they really kind of went back to the old processes of using reference and really, making sure that they got all of the movements for all of the characters right. Like they just knew if they were going to do this, they had to get it right. And, the hair moving in the water and how much effort that they put into that.
yeah, to get it right, and this was really kind of the last full 2D hand-drawn animated film, because after this is when they really started, to integrate CGI into Disney animated movies, which is still cool, but it's interesting to note about that. This was also just a chance for that new generation of Disney animators to prove themselves and say, yes, we can do this. Walt Disney Animation is still credible and can make movies like they used to, make them like we used to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this was really Glenn Keane's first, chance to shine because he was mainly in charge of Ariel and doing her animation.
right.
And he just did an amazing job bringing her to life.
And she was inspired by Alyssa
Milano,
Milano. Have you
yeah.
heard about that?
Yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, a huge success critically, commercially, won Academy Awards for Best Original Song with Kiss the Girl, Best Original Score there, and I love The Little Mermaid. It's up there in my top 3 Walt Disney animated movies for sure. I have so many memories. This was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater. It was 1997 for the re-release, and I have vague memories of the popcorn bucket having the characters on them, and a kind of a vague memory of the scene, the iconic scene where it's the part of your world reprise and she splashes up on the rock. So I kind of remember seeing that on the big screen. So
Yeah, I never saw it in the theater, but we did own it, so I watched it a lot on VHS, and then I was huge fan of the Little Mermaid TV show that they did later on,
yeah,
based off of this. So I watched that one all the time. You just need to do a whole Little Mermaid episode, I guess.
I feel like we have, honestly.
Kind
If you
of,
go
but
listen to our Jody Benson discussions. Okay, so in 1990, November 16th, 1990, just about a year later almost from Mermaid, The Rescuers Down Under was released. Kind of an underwhelming, movie to follow up for Little Mermaid. It's a sequel to The Rescuers, which we talked about for the Bronze Age, and it's the only sequel for Walt Disney Animation. Well, till that point. Now I guess that's about to change though,
yeah,
with
yeah.
the Wreck-It Ralph
Wreck-It
2
Ralph
and
2, yeah.
Frozen 2, because all of those direct to, home video sequels don't count. Those are not even, those are like Disney Toon Studios. So a different thing. But Bianca and Bernard return, and this time,
Same voices, and
yeah,
yeah, they return. Now they have to go save this little boy in Australia.
yeah, Cody. What do you think about this movie, though? I don't not like it, but I definitely prefer the original.
Yeah, I mean, I like the original one better as well, but I do really like this movie, and I remember watching this one a lot when I was little. I don't know that we owned it. It's really entertaining. I think it's another good adventure. It does follow, the structure of the first movie very closely in a lot of ways. So I don't know that it was necessarily like a necessary sequel for them to make, but it's good. I like it. Like you said, a little bit underwhelming when you consider that they had just put out, Little Mermaid, and then all these movies that were going to come right after it. It kind of gets lost in there, I think.
And when you think about it, at the time when they would have started making this, they wouldn't have known like, oh,
Right.
Little Mermaid is going to be, so much better, and all these movies are going to be huge successes, and this is going to just kind of be, it's going to be okay. It's going to be kind of a flop. But anyway, it's notable for the use of CGI, kind of the first one to really use CGI.
This was the first one where they completely assembled the final film digitally. Basically, they used what's called CAPS, Computer Animated Production System, and they would take, the animators would still do pencil drawings, but then they would scan them into a computer and do the ink and color digitally and then add it onto a background digitally rather than putting them onto cells and then shooting them. So that was a huge time saver, I think, a huge jump that they made in the way that they produced the films. So it's probably mostly important in that regard, I think.
That's kind of what they say in Waking Sleeping Beauty. It's like, it was a flop, but it really changed the game. So, moving on to 1991, November 22nd, 1991. Oh, wow. I think possibly the best Disney animated movie ever. It's Beauty and the Beast.
I think it's kind of like surprised everybody, really. I mean, not that I remember when it came out because I was a baby, but I think that a lot of people were just surprised at how wonderful this is, not just as an animated movie, but just a movie. And it was the first animated movie, I believe, to be nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. It's just that good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is that good. I guess after the success of Mermaid, people were kind of expecting a big hit, but in the documentary in Waking Sleeping Beauty, which I'm going to keep referring to a lot in this podcast, they talk about how an early screening, the New York, was it the film critics or something?
Some sort of film festival, yeah.
Film festival stood up at the end and applauded, like a standing ovation. The critics said the best Broadway production of 1991 is at the movie theater, and it's Beauty and the Beast. I mean, don't you think that really, like, from a critical analysis standpoint, this is the best Walt Disney animated movie?
I think so. I mean, we studied this one a lot in school too. I remember, just in terms of story and the technicality and the animation and the music, like every single element is just perfect and it just comes together so well.
I mean, Be Our Guest, that was the Academy Award winner there for the song. And oh man, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, again, back on the music here. Unfortunately, during production, Howard did pass away from AIDS, and that part in Waking Sleeping Beauty is so sad. This would have been his last, well, not really, but he worked on Aladdin a little bit too, but yeah, a good voice cast here, though, with Paige O'Hara as Belle, and then Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Potts, singing Beauty and the Beast. Beautiful song. And I've always heard that it was just one take for her recording that song.
Yeah, I think that they originally had the song arranged differently, so it wasn't so much this slow ballad, and then she sang it that way, and I guess just reduced everyone to tears, and they ended up using that instead.
And then, yeah, it was the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture at a time when there were only 5 nominations for Best Picture, too.
And there wasn't any Best Animated Feature category yet, so that's how that kind of snuck in there. And I think that category was created soon after this, probably because of this movie, really.
Yeah, I feel like it was created like in the early 2000s, but maybe you're right. I don't know. Was it not? I thought it was like early 2000s when the animated category.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Beauty and the Beast, just, it's the best, and it's kind of the standard.
I never really watched this one, like, at all when I was little, because the Beast just scared me so bad. So I would never, we own this movie, I would never watch it. I probably watched it like one time and freaked out and would not watch it again. So it wasn't really until it came out on DVD that I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this movie now. And that was like really, really seeing it for the first time, which is kind of weird because like I loved all the other princess movies. But yeah, Belle's probably my favorite of the princesses. I like her. People always tell me that I'm like Belle, which I'm pretty sure is only because I like to read, but it's fine.
Which is so strange and weird.
Right.
I watched Beauty and the Beast a lot, and I don't know, when I when I was a little kid, I always used to put on these huge, productions in our living room where my grandparents would come over and watch me like put on like a play with my toys. When I was going to do a play version of Beauty and the Beast, I didn't want to just use like little toys. I was going to go all out. And I had my mom, like, we had these big poster boards, drew the characters, and we like cut them out and colored them. And we went all out for the production for the Whitlockson 5-year-old living room grandparents in attendance production of Beauty and the Beast. And it was a big deal. So yeah, that was Beauty and the Beast 1991. Moving on to 1992, November 25th, 1992, Aladdin was released.
I love
Yay!
Aladdin. I feel like I watched Aladdin so much, and like when the sequels came out on DVD, that was like a really big deal for me. I don't
Yeah.
know, like, yeah,
Return of Jafar and
King of
King of
Thieves,
Thieves.
yeah, and the TV show, yeah,
Yeah, so this was also a huge hit, like Beauty and the Beast, critically, commercially, everything. And I think it was probably, well, it's probably like one of four from that time that were just mega successes. And it's interesting to me that it was because it's probably not my favorite of Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King, which are the four that I'm talking about. It's probably my least favorite of those. It's based on like what, a legend?
yeah, the 1001 Nights, which is yeah, like a book of stories.
It's fun. It's a musical. It's an adventure. It's a comedy with Robin Williams voicing the genie. It's fantastic. So
Yeah. I know you said this is probably your least favorite of the four. And I think when you look at, the ones that are like the best ones, this is probably like the least best of those four. But
yeah.
it's maybe my personal favorite. I don't know. It's
Well, I mean, when we say that though, it's still
yeah.
really good.
Oh
It's just
yeah.
if
Oh
you
yeah.
ranked them,
Right.
if you ranked it, that's where it would fall for
Right.
me.
Right.
So
But yeah, I mean, Robin Williams as the genie is just one of the best Disney characters, I think. And he was given a lot of freedom to ad lib, which is something that wasn't really done with animation voiceover. But the animator Eric Goldberg really, worked with him on that. And, some of it you could say is a little dated, all the pop culture references that the genie makes, but I think it adds a lot to the character, and it's something that they've been able to play with in current versions of the character on Broadway and all of that. So Jasmine is a great princess. She's like probably, I'm trying to think, she's probably one of the more like headstrong, adventuresome type princesses that we've seen at this
she
point.
was the first non-white princess there, voiced by Linda Larkin as the talking voice and Lea Salonga as the singing voice. So, and then you have Scott Weinger who voiced Aladdin, and he's Steve from Full House, which is just so funny. Brad Kane, of course, as the singing voice of Aladdin. Fantastic. So, memory for me, I played Aladdin when I was like 12 in a production of Aladdin Jr. That was, I mean, truly, it was like a highlight of my childhood. But looking back at like pictures and stuff, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. But at the same time, still something that I'm really, proud of, I guess. So the songs in this movie, you've got A Whole New World, the Academy Award winning song. Amazing, fantastic. You've got Friend Like Me for the Genie. You've got One Jump, which is a fun one.
The opening song, which is the most
Arabian
controversial
Nights.
thing, they ended up having to change some of the lyrics later on because
Oh,
it
yes, I've heard
created
about
so
this.
much controversy. I don't remember exactly what the line was, but it definitely was a racial stereotype of Arab people.
I've
So
heard about this, and like it's something about how they released a soundtrack for it, and then like the only place that you can find that now is if you have that first soundtrack or something.
yeah,
So
probably. Yeah, I mean they've changed it in any other release. So
yeah. I'm so sad that we're like having to keep moving on through this era, but the next movie was in 1994. Oh man, The Lion King, one of my absolute favorites.
So amazing. I mean, the opening to that movie, the Circle of Life song, I mean, just those opening notes, it's like goosebumps every time. It's so good.
I mean, that opening scene has got to be like one of the most iconic scenes in cinematic history almost. So, yeah.
Mufasa's death in the wildebeest stampede is like, definitely up there with Bambi, probably more so than Bambi, I feel like, as, just one of those iconic and tragic Disney moments. And he's, of course, voiced by the great James Earl Jones. Does such a great job voicing that character. Really great voice cast on the whole, really. You had like Nathan Lane.
Matthew Broderick as Simba, adult Simba, and then you had Jonathan Taylor Thomas as Cub Simba.
Jeremy Irons as Scar.
Yes.
Great,
so good.
Great villain.
And the songs in this, not a Menken movie, this was Elton John and Hans Zimmer, and then Lebo also in there. So Can You Feel the Love Tonight was the Oscar winner, but you've got I Just Can't Wait to Be King, Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata. Man, such good songs, such good music, African inspired, and they just nailed that. The animators did so much research, going to Africa, bringing lion cubs into the studio. But, this was, in terms of the Waking Sleeping Beauty documentary, it kind of ends at this point because that was the era with Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg. And after this point, sort of the heads clashed. The president of the company at that time, Frank Wells, I want to say that he died around the time of Lion King.
He was in a helicopter crash, right?
Yeah, right before Lion King, freak accident with the helicopter crash. And so Jeffrey Katzenberg did not get the promotion that he expected with that. And so that was sort of an eye-opening time where it was like you had sort of these big egos in the company. And so things started to fall apart there. I think Katzenberg left after Lion King. That's kind of where the documentary ends. But that's not where the Disney Renaissance ends. Is there anything else you want to say about Lion King? I have so many memories.
I do too, because I remember my mom took me to see this in the theater when it first came out. And I don't remember this, but she said that like my first thing that I said when we left the movie was like, wow, everyone in that movie was so angry. Like, why were they all so angry?
I'm picturing little Katie. Why was everyone so angry in that movie? It's funny.
Also, our family dog is named Simba.
Yeah.
She's a girl, so I don't know why she's named Simba, but there you go.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I sang I Just Can't Wait to Be King in my third grade talent show with my cousin. People just always kind of put us with that performance of that song for some reason. Just growing up, y'all sang The Lion King in the talent show. Yeah, we did. And there is a video on my channel, on my YouTube channel, that I celebrated the 20th anniversary a few years ago for The Lion King, and I just share lots of fun memories about it in there. I remember the first time I saw it on the big screen was like an IMAX release of the movie, and then I had a birthday party when I was 3 that was Lion King themed. The 3D re-release a couple of years ago, or a few years ago. That was great.
That was amazing. I remember going to that, and like the theater was so crowded. Like it was so amazing to see all these people turn up for this movie that it's been around for such a long time, but still so excited about it.
As they should be, because it's so good. Love The Lion King so much. Okay, I hate to move on. This is so hard to move on in this era. But again, I was saying that even though that was kind of, The Lion King kind of ended that time, with that specific group of people at the head of animation, the studio did continue to release several more hits in that Renaissance era. June 23rd, 1995 brought us Pocahontas, a Native American-inspired movie, American history. Yeah, what do you think about Pocahontas?
I mean, I like it. It's not. I don't feel like it was ever one of my favorite ones, but I do know a lot of people who it was their favorite growing up, and it was really popular. I do think the music is beautiful.
There's always been so much controversy around it because it's inspired by, U.S. history with Pocahontas and so inaccurate. But storytelling, there's good storytelling in the movie. The songs are, Colors of the Wind is one of my favorite Disney songs. Like, I love that song. And the message of that song is really, just forever relevant. Just Around the River Bend is another one that's really great. So, and that was Menken again. And Steven Schwartz, I believe, is who he teamed up with for the music on this one. So, the animation style of Pocahontas. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's always really been interesting to me the way that the characters were drawn for this movie.
Yeah, they do look different from other human characters that we've seen up to this point. And I guess they were going for a little bit of a different style. I was gonna say maybe to reflect the different race, but then of course you've got white characters too, so that doesn't really work. But I don't like it as much.
Yeah. The eyes have always just been like, what were they doing there? I enjoy this movie. A huge success, but not as successful, especially critically, as Lion King. And again, those others that I was mentioning that came before it. You start to see sort of this, not really a decline, but the rest of the movies of this era do not necessarily match what those four did in terms of success.
Pocahontas was being developed at the same time as The Lion King, and everyone at Disney was like, Pocahontas is going to be our next big movie. That was the one that everybody wanted to work on, and Lion King was just like this little side project that no one wanted anything to do with, and it just ended up being the complete opposite, of course.
You do have some notable names in the cast. Mel Gibson as John Smith, and Christian Bale voices Thomas. And some fun little supporting characters in this too, with Miko the raccoon and Flit the little hummingbird, and then the dog Percy.
And Grandmother Willow.
Yes. Love her.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay, 1996 brought us The Hunchback of Notre Dame, June 21st, 1996. We actually talked about this recently because it just celebrated 20 years, and we did like an underrated top 5 favorites on one of our episodes. But the thing we talked about so much is how adult this movie is. It's such an adult film. It is a deep adult themed movie. Oh my goodness, but it's still rated G.
Yeah, that's weird. And I remember, really enjoying this movie when I was little. Had all the toys, had the computer game, like all that stuff. And like none of those themes ever registered with me. It was just like another, oh yay, fun Disney movie. And then, watching it back later when I was older, it was like, oh, okay. Like, Frollo's song.
Yeah, Hellfire is like the creepiest thing ever.
And I never really like listened to it that closely before, and then I did, and I was like, oh, this is what it's about. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of about like his lust for Esmeralda kind of interfering with his faith, if you want to call it that. So it's weird. It's so weird, and it's so dark, and but it's so good, and you really wouldn't pick up on that watching it as a kid, because I know I didn't. And I didn't own this movie as a kid, so if I got to see it, it was like on TV. We did read a book. We had like, one of the books of the Disney stories, and we would read that a lot, but I just didn't own it. And so now watching it more as it's on TV as an adult, I'm just like, this is so good. I could watch this all day. It's great. But it's not a kid's movie. It is not a kid's movie.
It's really not. I mean, you've got like the comic relief in the form of the talking gargoyles who, live on the roof of the cathedral, and they're kind of Quasimodo's confidants. But other than that, it's really like there's nothing there really for children, I feel like.
No. Good music, though. You have Out There, God Help the Outcasts, Hellfire, which we mentioned. So, and just the score, Topsy Turvy. The score overall is just great. Another Menken movie there. So, and great characters and
Visually, it's beautiful too. I mean, like the scenes inside the cathedral and everything. It's gorgeous.
yeah, that's Hunchback of Notre Dame, though. And then, so 1997 brought us Hercules, June 27th, 1997. And it has nothing, it's not anything really true to mythology in Hercules, but it's quite an epic movie. It's a great comedy, some great gospel-inspired music by, again, Alan Menken. A fun movie, fun characters. Yeah, love it.
I love Hades is I think one of my favorite Disney villains. Just he's he's appropriately evil, but he's also like so funny. And then you have Pain and Panic, who are his sidekicks, and they were just like always hilarious to me. I mean, they still are, but I just remember always laughing at their parts when I was little. And Meg is probably one of my favorite Disney leading ladies as well. She's a lot of fun, and I love her song in the movie.
Yes. I Won't Say I'm in Love is so good.
It's so good.
I Can Go the Distance is so good. James Woods is the voice of Hades. Tate Donovan is adult Hercules there. And then Meg is voiced by the fabulous Susan Egan. This was one of the first ones where I can remember going out and enjoying the movie and being a part of the process of getting the toys at McDonald's and just all that fun stuff. And my cousin, this is her favorite Disney movie. And whenever I went over to her house as a kid, that movie was always playing, like always. She still likes it, and I like it too. So, well, then I guess we will move on to the next movie. And I think we share a love for this movie, Katie. This is my all-time favorite Disney movie.
Me too.
And that is 1998's Mulan, released June 19th, 1998.
I very specifically remember going to see this in the theater when it first came out, and the movie ending, and just like walking out like, wow, that was like the greatest thing I've ever seen in all of my 7 years that I've been alive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was like the first movie that I remember seeing and just being like really, really, really excited about.
I mean, I remember this one probably best too, like as one of the first that I just really remember experiencing the success of it. And just, I remember like everybody talking about it and the toys I bought and the soundtrack. I had the soundtrack.
I don't think I'd ever wanted anything so badly as I wanted the Mulan dolls. And they had like all the different ones, and like I had to have the one from like the opening scene when she goes to the matchmaker, and I still have it.
I have a plush Mushu that I still have as well, because Mushu is like one of my favorite characters. So, but the story, it's based on like a Chinese legend. Just such a huge adventure.
It's so epic.
Movie.
Yeah,
and a nice heroine with Mulan. Fun characters, a great sidekick with Mushu, who's voiced by Eddie Murphy. And Lea Salonga came back to do the singing voice of Mulan. She'd done Princess Jasmine. And the songs in this, you've got Honor to Us All at the beginning, which is great. Reflection, another one of my favorite songs of all time. So good. Let's Get Down to Business and Defeat the Huns. Yes. Make a Man Out of You. So good. Donny Osmond did the voice of the singing voice for Shang there. It's kind of a serious movie, but it's also got some great moments of comedy in there. So, and great action. And oh man, the scene where she blows up the mountain. Love it. So good.
Yeah. I always love the end where she's fighting him on the rooftop, and I think he like, trying to remember, he like throws a sword at her, right, and then she like catches it with her fan. Is that what that's like the best? And then Mushu like jumps out of the tower and they're like fireworks, and I was like, this is just the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. Seriously though,
Get
off the roof. Yeah, I think this one was a back to a big critical success because the critics hadn't really loved like Hercules so much, and this was kind of back to the critics like, yeah, this is really good because it is. It's so good, and it is my all-time favorite. And just memory-wise, we've kind of already discussed everything, but I was Shang for Halloween. I had a Mushu backpack in preschool, and I took the movie to preschool, and I remember that, and really have memories of this, like I can see it. I remember that at the end when "True to Your Heart" comes on, which was sung by Stevie Wonder and 98
98
Degrees.
degrees, yes.
Hey, the teachers had all of us like get up and just dance, and we like danced in the room to "True to Your Heart." But so good. Love this movie. So my all-time favorite.
Me too. And I think it's so funny how, like, with I'll Make a Man Out of You, like, I feel like nobody can say, like, let's get down to business without, like, singing the rest of that song, like, no matter what you're talking about. And I do remember in class one time, and this was not, like, that long ago either, but because it was in college, but we were just like sitting in the lab, everybody's working on their stuff, and someone just starts singing it, and then all of a sudden just everybody in the room starts singing it, and then
Yes, I love
yeah,
it.
and it was
I
great, and then
love
we
it.
just like stopped and went back to what we were doing like nothing ever happened.
That's
But
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Ah, so good. Love Mulan. Huge hit there again for Disney Animation. And then we're coming to the last film of this era, and I'm just getting so sad because I can't believe how fast this has gone by. But that's Tarzan, June 18th, 1999. But based on a book series, a TV series, all that fun stuff of Tarzan and
Considering that this is probably one of the most filmed stories ever, they did approach it in a way that felt new and different.
and Phil Collins did the music. Now, this is not really a music. This is definitely not a musical. There is one song that's sung a little bit. "You'll Be in My Heart." Kala sings that, but this is kind of like Phil Collins, the pop singer. He wrote and did the music for this, and they just played his music in the movie. But man, is the soundtrack for this
It's
good.
great. It's great.
You've got Two Worlds, you've got Son of Man, You'll Be in My Heart, Strangers Like Me, the camp song.
Oh yeah, Trash in the
That's a good
Camp.
one. Trash in the
Yeah.
Camp, that's a good one too. So the voice talent, you've got Glenn Close as Kala, you have Rosie O'Donnell as Turk, Tony Goldwyn as Tarzan, and who voices Jane? She's well known.
Wasn't it Minnie
Minnie
Driver?
Driver. Minnie
Yeah.
Driver. Yes, yes, yes.
I know my
So,
parents really liked it because they like went and got the soundtrack and everything. But I don't know. I guess we were kind of interested in it because we kind of grew up watching like the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies from the 30s and 40s and all of that. So
yeah, my dad's a big fan of
yeah,
those.
yeah.
So he was really excited to see this. And this is another one where I have pretty vivid memories about seeing it and experiencing sort of the success of it. Because at this time, like every Disney movie that came out was a big deal. It was a huge deal, and they all just went on to be these pop culture phenomenons. And that ends kind of after Tarzan for a while, with the exception of a few that we're going to talk about with the early 2000s era, the post Renaissance. But well, overall, the Disney Renaissance it's really the most fascinating era, I think, in Disney animation history. All of the names that are associated with this era, Glenn Keane, and you can name off some too, but like John Musker, Ron Clements, Howard Ashman, Alan Menken. What are some of the other artists that I'm not thinking of? Producer, you have Don Hahn, involved in a lot of these movies. So I mean, just wow, what a time. What a time. And I feel very like lucky to have even experienced a little of it. And I feel bad for like the kids who grew up later than that, but
It's like the best. I mean, that's my childhood, really.
yeah, really, it is. Yeah. I could like take each of these movies individually and do a podcast
You
probably
really could.
on each
I
of
mean,
them.
there's so much to say about all of those. They're all,
Yeah.
so great in their own way, and all have their own little contributions to, the company and the animation industry.
But anyway, I guess that's all. Thanks so much for listening to this Disney Renaissance special episode of Dis-connected, the history of Disney animation. Be sure to catch up on the other episodes if you've not listened to them, or if you're binge listening, just keep on listening through. Katie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, always fun to have a Dis-cussion with you. And come back next week, folks, for our post-Renaissance discussion. Be sure to follow mine and Katie's social media links in the description below, and follow at Disney_connected on Instagram for more Dis-connected content. And until next time, have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon, folks.